I made a film called 6 on 77, the Dulles Airport 9/11 cover-up, regarding anomalies about the amount and identities with the hijackers who boarded and commandeered Flight 77 into the Pentagon, using a collection of news reports between the days following 9/11 to the initial releases of the Dulles CCTV security video in July of 2004. I also address other 9/11 Truth researchers' claims about the lack of airport employee testimony seeing the actual hijackers at Dulles, a suggestion used to support the refuted claim that no plane hit the Pentagon on 9/11. To debunk that suggestion, I refer to a more recent USA Today news piece interviewing an American Airlines ticket counter worker named Vaughn Alex, who serviced two of the Flight 77 hijackers. But I also feature portions of a 2010 mini-documentary titled Unsafe at Any Altitude by authors Joseph and Susan B. Trento, who interviewed actual staff from Dulles Airport, including a Pakistani man named Eric Gale, whose face is blurred out during the film and is an employee of Argenbright Security. Gale's testimony would not be relevant towards personally seeing any of the hijackers on September 11th. Instead, Gale positively identified 3 of the hijackers on September 10, 2001, while he was stationed at the West Security exit.
I saw about 5 Middle Eastern people. They were walking to the side door we have at West Checkpoint, which is accessed by only few restricted people. I noticed that 3 of them were wearing a uniform and IDs. 2 other guys who were not wearing a uniform and had no IDs, and they were trying to escort these 2 guys through there. As soon as they walked inside the checkpoint, they just stopped there and started watching around. That made me suspicious.
Gill's suspicions were well placed. The men, dressed in United Airlines ground workers' uniforms, wanted access to a door that led to the concourse and parked planes. The men tried to use one electronic badge to swipe through. Gill stopped them.
They didn't like it, and he abused me, and he said, "F*** off. We are people you don't know. You should be allowed to go through here, but you make your own rules." And he just walked out with it.
A rude encounter it was, being that 3 of the Middle Eastern men turned out to be 9/11 hijackers. But an important detail I left out from Unsafe at Any Altitude about this incident was that they specifically had unrestricted access to the parked planes at Dulles Airport's tarmac. But I did point out in my film 6 on 77, with Barbara Olson's connecting airphone call to an AT&T operator who had recounted what Olson had told her aboard the hijacked American 77 flight, in which the passengers were moved to the back of the plane by hijackers with guns and knives, which would emphatically contradict the 9/11 Commission report's claims that the hijackers only used box cutters. Included that Ted Olson's original account, also speaking to his wife Barbara Olson, had stated plastic-type knives were seen instead, which, as for Flight 77 amongst the other 3 hijacked flights, was the only one specifically reported out of the 4, later changed to have been hijacked with box cutters. But these types of weapons, guns and knives, including being able to penetrate through airport security, in all probability, lend as to why there are cover-ups and inconsistencies about the hijacking themselves, creating anomalies that counter the 9/11 Commission report. Because with having unrestricted access at Dulles, any of the 9/11 operatives could have easily planted these weapons on Flight 77 where it was parked, before the hijackers boarded as normal passengers the next day. But hijackers disguised in airport uniforms having unrestricted access of Dulles Airport isn't the only anomaly that Eric Gill witnessed.
It wasn't until a week later, when Gill's wife showed him a National Enquirer story with color photographs of the hijackers, that he was finally able to make a positive ID.
And I said, "These 2 guys, I have seen them. I know these were the 2 who were there at the airport."
But now there becomes a problem. One of them Eric Gill confirmed was Nawaf al-Hazmi, who does board and hijack Flight 77 there from Dulles the next day. But the other 2 were Marwan al-Shehi and Fayaz bin Hamad, who's supposed to be at Logan Airport in Boston, Massachusetts the following day, to board, hijack, as well as pilot United Flight 175, which practically the entire world saw live, crashing into the South Tower of the World Trade Center. Which then ultimately a few things need to be questioned if Eric Gill's account was accurate. Mainly that if these additional Flight 175 hijackers are supposed to be at Logan early the next morning for their big day, just how did they get from Virginia to Massachusetts on time to prepare? Aside from the fact that any hijackers having been seen with unrestricted access at airports is not part of the official account, why still the unnecessary route of travel for Marwan and Fayez? And thus this far, only 2 camera angles from Dulles West Checkpoint security capturing the hijackers on 9/11 have been released, with only 1 angle available through the Zacharias Moussaoui trial exhibit. And also that there are many other camera angles throughout Dulles still unreleased that would have also captured the hijackers, but certainly the case of hijackers having unrestricted access wouldn't be something made public. Therefore, there would be no demand to release CCTV security video from Dulles on September 10th. But how can we know for certain Eric Gill was telling the truth? Just imagine, if you will, that investigators had managed to confiscate security camera video located where Eric Gill was stationed at the west security exit, which would confirm his statements that he did encounter 3 of the 9/11 hijacking suspects. Imagine if there were.